Welcome. I'm your host, Lee Adams, and today we're going to talk about something everybody loves, and that's music. I mean, we all have different tastes, but we all love music. Joining us today is an author of a very interesting book. It's called Behind the Stage Door, A Promoter's Life Behind the Scenes. He just released this outstanding memoir of working with some of the biggest artists in the country and in other countries. Please let me introduce the longtime promoter of the Caesar Engler Productions, Mr. Rich Engler. Rich, it's great to have you here today.
Well, thank you so much. Thanks for having me on your show.
It's really great. What a great book. What a great book. So we want to start a little bit back when you were younger. So when you were in high school, when you were in college, what's your music background?
Well, my music background was I was professionally trained as a trumpet player, and as things evolved, one of my classmates when I was in 11th grade came to me and he said, "Hey, we're going to start a combo. I'm looking for a drummer." I said, "Well, I play trumpet. Can I get in there?" He goes, "Oh, that's a corny instrument right now." He goes, "I need a drummer." I said, "Well, I can play drums too." I didn't really play drums, but I had a pair of drumsticks and I had a cymbal that I got from the music room. And I said, I can play. Just give me a chance. He goes, "Well, we're playing for a wedding coming up in 2 weeks." He said, "We're rehearsing this Saturday. Can you make it?" I said, "I sure can." So I remembered my dad, who was a glass worker in Creighton at PPG, had a buddy who had a pair of bongo drums and a conga drum. I thought, hey, maybe I could do a makeshift drum kit and put this thing together and show up. So I show up with this thing at practice, and they go, "What is this bunch of crap? How can you possibly make this thing work?" I said, I put a little fake on here. I said, "Hey, you guys have not been reading a lot. This stuff is really starting to happen with this kind of a setup." They go, "All right, let's try it." So sure enough, they said, "You know what? It worked." I had no bass drum or anything, but we go 2 weeks later and play this gig up in Trenton, Pennsylvania, for a wedding, and nobody threw anything at us, and I actually made $25. And my parents, I come back home, and my parents go, "They actually paid you $25?
What year was this?
This was in 1963.
Wow.
And the minimum wage was like, I think, $1 an hour, or maybe even less at that time. And they said, "I can't believe you made $25. I said, "Yes, but I could make more if you would lend me $75. We'll get more engagements, and I could pay you back quickly." So they go, "All right, let's do that." So I go over to a music store and I buy a real set of drums for $100 because I had my 25 and their 75. It was perfect. So we could have another rehearsal, and I asked the leader, I said, "Well, when's our next engagement?" He goes, "We have no more engagements." I said, "Well, why?" I said, I just borrowed money from my parents. I need to make money." I said, "Can I be the leader?" I said, I want to lead the band. I'll get us engagements. So I start calling places, after hours clubs in fire halls, anywhere that we could get engagements. Next thing I know, boom, 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 we're playing Friday, Saturday, Sundays on every weekend, and the band started to really grow, and I started to make some money.
About that, can I be the leader? It's a funny story. One of my best friends in high school was a trumpet player, and I used to be the roadie for his wedding band. But I think if they had you as the promoter, they might have got more work. But so you really went and got some work, and that's how things started. Now, how do you learn the drums, though? You just learn it on your own?
Well, I did. I fortunately had I had musical talent because of playing the trumpet and everything. So I knew beats in 4/4 time and 3/4 time and all these things. So I was able to, I picked it up quickly, and well, because I had to, because this was something I go, if I could make money at something that I enjoy like this would be outrageous. Then what comes after 63? 1964, and my life changed. All of a sudden, we had this combo. The Beatles, February 9th, 1964, come to the Ed Sullivan Show, and I go, "Oh no, we're going to have to change our whole business plan here." So I go, "Guys, start growing your hair. We're going to change our music. Instead of playing polkas and surfing music, now we're going to try to play some of this British music, and
Wow.
none of us could sing worth anything. So we did a lot of instrumentals of "I Want to Hold Your Hand" and all these Beatles songs, and the Rolling Stones then came out, Dave Clark 5, and so our band started to evolve and started to make bigger money, and I started changing some personnel around and got some better players, and we changed the name a couple times, and then I ended up with the Grains of Sand. And that's the band that really started to really catch fire.
So you just took control of this group and you just launched it on an upward ascent. Now, the Beatles, you think about the Beatles, what an impact they had in this country. You know, just the hair, we were wearing longer hair back in the day, and the music that it influenced, it just had such a, and we didn't have the technology and everything that we have today back then, but what an unbelievable impact they had.
Oh, but by all means, it was, and still today, their music is timeless, and the singing quality and the quality of the music was second to none. And so, what happened to continue the story? My band started to get very famous, and people would call me and say, "Rich, I want to book your band for my college or my church event or whatever special event." I go, "Well, my band is booked Friday, Saturday night, but we can get Lee Adams and the Rockers." And I'd call you up and I'd say, "Lee, I got you $500 for this Saturday night. Will you pay me 10% of that money?" And you go, "Oh, anytime, you call me." So the next thing you know, I have 20 or 30 Lee Adams bands under my wings paying me all this commission. Then I get a call one day from the music union. They go, "Hey, what are you doing?" I said, "What do you mean?" They said, "You're booking all these bands." I said, "Yeah, these are my friends." They go, "No, no, no. You have a business there. Either you stop booking them or you have to get a license, theatrical employment license." So that was in several years later, and I got my license, and that's when that same week is when I met my girlfriend, Cindy. That's still my wife to this day.
How many years?
And over 40.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
So I also started my first company on Walnut Street that same week. So it was monumental, and that was 1969.
Wow.
So if somebody out there in TV land could do the math, there you go.
Now, so you just kind of, where did you get this kind of enterprising attitude and way of life? I mean, you just take over, let me be the leader, and then all of a sudden you start thinking, okay, I can't bring my band to you, but I'll find somebody else. I mean, where did this come from, Rich?
Well, that's kind of, my book touches on a lot of this. I think it's going to be inspirational for young kids to follow a dream, and if you want something bad enough, no matter what it is, as long as you do a great job at it and have the burning desire to succeed. And a lot of people don't understand what that means. That means you have to have it right here, that nothing is going to stop you. And that's what I had. But to answer your question, I have no idea. I have not to my knowledge, there's any background of anybody in business or negotiating skills in my family or my mother's family. It was a God-given gift, I guess, that I was able to develop.
Interesting. So now you have this kind of promotion company, so to speak, along with the band. So you're playing in your band and you're promoting a lot of local artists. When did you take this to the next step?
Well, that went on till about 1971, where I was approached by two guys from Greensburg that wanted to start doing some shows. A little bit before that, I started sending out brochures to the colleges. Like Santana was a new act, Big Brother and the Holding Company, Creedence Clearwater. All these acts were started, the Kinks, and 10 years after, all these bands from England were starting to emerge. So I sent a flyer out, and a person from St. Bonaventure University was my first big break. He called me and said, "Hey, can you book Johnny Winter up here for us, the guitar player?" And I said, "Absolutely." I said, "That's on my list, right?" And he goes, "Oh yeah, that's done." So instead of making hundreds of dollars, now I started to make thousands of dollars. So Johnny Winter was like $5,000, and with my production and being there and producing the show, I was probably able to make $1,000 that night for that show. So I thought, boy, this is a grand opportunity. Rather than book those local bands, which I still continue to do, there was another larger upper scale level of these national acts. So with that, I got this call from these guys from Greensburg, and they wanted to start to do bigger shows. Down at the Stanley Theater was sitting there, the Syria Moss, Kennedy Hall out at the St. Vincent College, and some of these other places, Johnstown War Memorial. I started booking 10 years after, Lou Reed, King Crimson, Genesis as an opening act. Nobody even knew who Genesis was at that time. And I started honing my skills as a promoter, helping these guys promote these shows. So with that, in about 1973, another phone call took place. I get Pat DeCesar calling me, who was at that time promoting at the Civic Arena and at the Syria Mosque. He said, hey, why don't we form a company, call it DeCesar Engler? We shook, and DeCesar Engler was born late 73, and in 1974 we had our first big show.
How about that? So you started with Johnny Winter, and what kind of venues did you play outside of the Syria Mosque and the Stanley? What venues did you do? I think you talked about Latrobe one point when we talked earlier.
Yeah, Johnstown War Memorial. We did a few shows out there. We did a couple shows in McKees Rocks, a Blue Oyster Cult show. It was above a Roth Rug company out there, and there was a big ballroom upstairs. Just about anywhere that we could do. A couple Point Park College at the time, we did a couple events down there for them.
So Johnny Winter was one. Who was your next bigger act that people might know?
Well, when DeCesar Engler was formed, can we go from there? My first big show there was Fleetwood Mac, which was it was extremely successful financially, but there was a bit of a snafu. Whenever I was there at the show, the group Spirit played first, and then I had Fleetwood Mac. They were almost ready to go on stage, but they didn't arrive at the facility yet, and there was a reason. They had to go on in about 10 minutes, so I see these people coming through the door, and then this manager guy, he said, hey, I'm Clifford Davis, and I'm the manager of Fleetwood Mac. I said, well, where's Fleetwood Mac? I know Fleetwood Mac because I just played them recently at Carnegie Hall in Oakland there, right down the road. And I said, I know Mick Fleetwood, I know Christy McVie, I knew John McVie. Where are they? He goes, they just walked by you. That's the band that, as it is today. That's Fleetwood Mac. I own the name. He owns the name. I go, well, that doesn't mean anything. These people out here in the audience are waiting to see the real Fleetwood Mac. He goes, this is the real Fleetwood Mac. The other one doesn't exist anymore. I didn't know. They were in England, and they were in a bitter battle over the name. So next thing I know, I said, I'm not letting your act go on stage. He goes, oh, yes, you are. Next thing I know, I see a punch coming like this. I duck in. We're tussling back at the backstage. The security comes, breaks us up. Next thing I know, this guy runs on stage and says, ladies and gentlemen, Fleetwood Mac. And then, boom, that bogus band goes on stage and plays. Then I'm going, what am I going to do? They end the song. It was Rattlesnake Shake. I'll never forget it. The first song, the crowd goes crazy, loving it. And I go, I don't know what's going on. I don't know, because there was no MTV. There wasn't much TV coverage back then of these acts. So it was more just the music. The music, and the music was great. This band was doing, but the faces weren't matching the music. So the next day, I called the agent. I go, hey, we were all snookered here. You got to call all the other promoters across the country and tell them to cancel their show. This is a bogus act. So we got them off the road. And a year later, I was able to get the real Fleetwood Mac back, and they were very remorseful, and they go, hey, it was a bitter battle, but we got our name back.
Well, from what I read, the Syria Mosque, I guess, was one of the main venues prior to the arena in Pittsburgh. It was one of the, I went to many concerts down there, Barb and Turner, Overdrive, a few other ones. But is that one of the mainstays that you used prior to the arena?
It was. It was a real sweetheart place. It was 3,500 seats, and it was intimate. The seats came all the way kind of around to the side. Great facility, and the Stanley Theater was down there. It was a dying movie house at the time, and I'll go get into how we ended up buying the facility. And I'd do some shows at the Stanley, but the Syria Moss was kind of like the place to go at the time.
But no air conditioning.
No air conditioning, right. And so we were very limited in the summer down there. We'd really stretch it. We'd go into April and maybe catch a little bit of May, and then that was just about it.
Yeah.
And then we had some great shows. Bruce's famous debut, basically, he played at a small club earlier, but his basic debut was at the Syria Mosque. A few weeks later, he was on the cover of Time and Newsweek, and boom, Born to Run, and history was made. Second time in, he went back to the Syria Mosque, blew the fans away again, played 3 hours and encore after encore, and he ended the show, went in his dressing room, people cheering, show's over, they start filing out. Everybody starts filing out of the building, leaving. Security, signed out. Security left. 10 minutes later, Bruce goes, in his mind, he's going back on. He runs back out on stage, starts playing again. People already in their cars, some halfway down the steps outside and the sidewalks. People go, he's back on. They throw their cars in park and turn around, whip around, people jumping on stage, no security. It was bedlam. Bruce was loving it. So going on. I was in the box office still doing we call it a settlement. You got to do the math and figure out how much all the expenses were that night, and Bruce's pay and our pay and whatever. So somehow Miss Steele, she was the manager, a real tough lady. She ran a tight ship up there, and she wanted to catch her last bus wherever she lived, and she was beyond angry. She looked for me for probably 2 seconds and figured out she couldn't find me, headed back, knocked in, no security on the stage door now because that guy's gone, goes into the backstage, gets on stage and is looking for a cord. She was old-fashioned.
While Bruce is playing.
While Bruce is playing, she thinks that she can pull one cord and kill everything. Modern electronics and electricity, even back in the 70s, didn't allow that. So she's looking around, so she figures, I'm going out on stage. So she goes on stage. Bruce is playing like this. He's going like this. Next thing Bruce knows, she's in his face like this. Young man, this must end. And Bruce goes, dumbfounded, and he goes, and he knew this was pretty serious. So I guess he signals the band, ends the song, and goes running back into the dressing room. And it was priceless. It was something like out of an old 1950s rock and roll black and white flick where the establishment didn't want to see any rock and roll.
Stop that, young man, stop that. And speaking of Bruce, and my wife's a huge Bruce fan, we have something with Bruce right here.
Yes, indeed. This is very special. Opened PNC Park, August 6th, 2003, with Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band, all the guys, and Bruce kind enough to autograph it for me, and but that is special. But this is extremely rare and special. It's a handwritten set list by Bruce. Bruce, every one of his shows, sits down a few hours before the show and handwrites the set list for his band, and then the band gets the list, and they have to follow it up. Started that night with Promised Land, and the show ended right here. After the 16th song, No Surrender, and he comes playing 5 more tunes on the first encore, and he always writes B2R, Born to Run. So he ended the first encore, and then he came on with the second encore. Couldn't figure out that song with his writing there, but Jungle Land for sure. And then they ended the second encore and came on with Rosalita and Dancing in the Street.
Oh my goodness gracious, that's
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah, good stuff.
That's great stuff. And we have some other things up here on the set. Why don't you talk about this particular record right in front of you here?
Well, this platinum record, it's from AC/DC. It's multiple platinum. I think at that time they sold 2 to 4 million copies of that. And I have 14 platinum and gold records that acts have given me over the years for helping and helping their careers, and one producing their shows in several markets and doing right by them.
And now we have another one over here. We have another platinum. Is this a platinum record?
Yes, it is. It's a multi-platinum from Kansas Leftoverture, and very dear to my heart. They credit me for really launching their career nationally. And it was launched out of Pittsburgh. Little did they know, or little did I know, that that was going to happen. But Pittsburgh is their second home. And,
well, they just played the 40th anniversary here, didn't
that's
they?
it.
Did you do that?
Yeah, I did. I was very touched. I got a call one afternoon last winter, and they said, Rich, do you know it's our 40th anniversary? I go, well, I thought it was right around this time, and I figured in my mind they're going to invite me to go to Vegas or New York or somewhere. They're going to do a big show. He goes, well, we want to do this big show with you. You made our life. You made our career. We want to pay you back, and the fans from Pittsburgh. We want to come in and do a very special show. And I'm just like, I was very emotional. It was just so touching that these guys remembered where it all started.
Wow.
And so I put a 40-piece symphony orchestra with them for the first half of the show. And then they rocked out with the touring band and brought the old members back. Terry Livgren and Robbie Steinhardt was planned to be there, and Dave Hope. Robbie had an unfortunate incident. He had a stroke and had to have bypass surgery and couldn't make it, but he's doing well, and fabulous guys.
Now this guitar right in front of me, right here, this is the Rolling Stones.
That's priceless. That is a signed by Keith Richard and Ronnie Wood from the Rolling Stones. It was signed at the Civic Arena. That very one. I have a couple others. This also was the third time in recent years. We've had the Stones 2 times more in the 80s in the Three River Stadium, which was phenomenal. The Steel Wheels tour and the Voodoo Lounge tour. So a couple Voodoo Lounge passes are on that one also.
And next to that is another really pretty famous guitar, wouldn't we say?
Very special. It was one of the greatest moments in my music life, to be face with a real icon, Bob Dylan. Bob, I produced many shows and promoted many shows with him, but this very one at the Icy Light Amphitheater in Pittsburgh, down at Station Square on the river down there, Bob, we were backstage talking, and Bob was, it was just a magical moment, because I'm sitting here talking with him, and I just could not help remembering back whenever it was $1 an hour, and I was in my grade school and got a summer job, and I was able to sweep the floors in that grade school, and just like a Rolling Stone came on, KDKA AM, Clark Ray show, and that song played for 5 minutes or 6 minutes, and you could never get a song ever played for more than 2.5, 3 minutes. And I'm just like, what is this? This is fantastic. It's nothing I've ever heard before. And here I am, face to face with Bob Dylan, and he was kind enough to sign the guitar, and what a great moment for me. And
it's hard to even imagine, So, and that's one of my questions. So you were pretty starstruck at that moment, which I think anybody would be. Were there any other moments that you recall going back in the day that you were starstruck? Because you certainly were with some big-time musical artists.
Well, aside from, well, that story for Bob, from Bob is in the book, and another one that's very interesting is Sir Paul McCartney. We were, the first time around, it was called Wings Over America, and couldn't play Pittsburgh because the Civic Arena's roof wasn't strong enough, the ceiling infrastructure, the steel, to hold the McCartney show.
Wow.
So over the years, Celine Dion's show finally brought the ceiling down, and it didn't collapse, but it had to be canceled because it was too heavy for the roof. So structural engineers came in, fixed the roof, put new support beams, so now it could handle big shows. So in 1980, I had the opportunity to negotiate a great deal with Paul McCartney for 2 nights. And I was thrilled. First night on sound check, Paul goes to the piano by himself. He sits down, so nobody in the building, and he starts doing a little sound check. And I kind of meandered around to the side and just kind of was leaning on the corner of the stage. And he starts with "Let It Be" and sings a few bars, and the hair on the back of my neck is like, oh my God, I can't. This is. Am I really hearing this? And this is going to be here for 2 days. This is the greatest. And then he goes into "Let It Be" and a couple other songs, and it was just like phenomenal. So he goes backstage and back to his dressing room. A few minutes later, I walk around in the corridor backstage. His road manager and production manager come to me, and he goes, "I'm not sure if Paul's going to be able to play tonight." And that's exactly what I did. I go, "What?" I said, "I just heard like one of the greatest things I ever heard." They go, "Well, great to you, but Paul is having some problems with his throat, and we need you to get 3 doctors here right away. We need a holistic doctor, ear, eye, nose, and throat doctor, and a general practitioner."
Just
I said,
like that.
"You got it." I said, "Well, we already had the general practitioner there." So I said, "All right, we have one here already. I'll make some calls." I knew a person from Sewickley that was holistic, and boom, 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 boom. Next thing I know, for tickets to see Paul McCartney, you'll be surprised what people drop and leave a dinner and come out. And we had all 3 of them there, and I went into pray mode. They went in to see Paul, and in the interim, I'm calling upstairs from the backstage office to management of the Civic Arena. What days can he come back? 2 days, next month or the next month after, if he has to cancel. Now, you have to remember, all the people have left their homes already. Babysitters are being paid or having dinners, and they're going to be
This is going through your mind.
Yeah, they're going to be walking into this building
Yeah.
in about 1 hour and 15, 1 hour and 20 minutes.
Oh, boy.
So whatever had to happen fast. So about 45 minutes later, the road manager comes back. He goes, "Well, it's your lucky day. He's going to play." I said, "Will he play both days?" They go, "We can't tell you that. He'll play. He's going to play tonight. Hopefully he makes it through the whole show, and hopefully it's going to be great." So I said, "Well, that's great. Hopefully it'll be right." So he went on stage. We were able to talk to him before time. He signed a bunch of things for me, and it was very special. His daughter was there. She was shooting some video. You know, she went on to be a very, very, very big designer in clothing, and his son James was there. Was very much into Nintendo and all those little games. We talked about all that, and I asked him how he's feeling. He said, "Hey, I think I'm going to be fine." So he went on and just blew people away. And that's one of the few shows I actually sat in the audience, which most of the shows I would never be able to see. I'd see the first 10 minutes and maybe something in the middle and maybe a few songs at the end if we got finished with the settlement. But that one, I was dead set on sitting in my seat with my wife, and we enjoyed it. And that night, I was one of the biggest fans.
So, I mean, you know, and I have thought of that. I've thought about these bands and these artists that tour across the country. They're doing date after date after date, and their throat is part of their voice, and they have to sing, and they have to keep that up. So I would assume that might not be the only time you ran into that type of issue, you know, with people having trouble going on for whatever reason.
Oh, yeah. that happens a lot, and a lot of them stall because they want, if it's an outdoor show, they want it to be dark. They want it to be really dark, so the lights make it better, or they've had maybe too much to drink or too many whatevers, and they can melt in their seat a little bit, and it's hard to get them on stage. But there's something about once you finally get them up and get them on stage, there's some sort of adrenaline that kicks in, that the thrill of being on stage in front of all those people, it just kind of kicks into these, and they go into muscle memory or like overdrive and put up.
Oh, that reminds me of a story of my own. I went to IUP and I got on the concert committee, and I did one and only concert, and it was the Jay Giles band, and I'm eating cafeteria food at the time, which wasn't like high grade food. So I walk in the backstage and I look in, and there's Jay Giles, Peter Wolf and Jay Giles, and they have a big spread, and I couldn't not take my eyes off it. So I'm looking at all this food that I haven't seen food like that, and one of them said, "Hey, you want to come on in and get something?" And I thought, sure. Well, I guess the concert head, he wasn't too happy about that, but they invited me in. But the thing that I remember the most was Jay Giles right before he went on stage. I mean, he looked to be in no condition to be playing that night. I was just shocked. I was transfixed on him, and he was kind of swaying, and he was out of it. But when he went on stage, he just turned a switch, and he was fine. So any memorable people like that you recall that were in not the greatest of shapes but went on and did well?
Yeah, back in 1975, which was our first forward to Caesar Engler, big deal that I negotiated with it was big money back then. I think Eric Clapton was six figures, and it was serious stuff. And the band with Garth Hudson and the whole gang and several other acts. Three Rivers Stadium, July 5th. And Eric, I go back to see Eric, and looks like he was feeling no pain, molded into the couch. Yvonne Elliman sitting next to him. She just came off of Broadway, Jesus Christ Superstar, playing Mary Magdalene, and we're doing some small talk, and he's telling me it's his birthday, and I tell him, okay, do you want us to have a birthday party for you afterwards? He goes, yeah, man, I think it'll be good. I go, well, if we have it, where are you going to come? He goes, yeah, mate, I believe I'll come. Yeah, put it together. Will I get a cake? And I said, sure. Okay, we'll get you a cake. So we're going on. Now I can hear the crowd out there. Eric. And I go, what do you think? Can we have a show? He goes, oh, pretty soon. I go, no, we got to do it now. I said, because first of all, everything unionized, and the clock is running, everybody's getting paid, all those people out there. So I said, come on, man. So I got a couple of his roadies. We got him up, got him going down the hall. We get to the steps, got to get him up the steps. We got him all the way up the steps. They put the guitar on him. Ladies and gentlemen, Eric Clapton, boom. He hit the stage. Beautiful. I didn't watch any of that show. I was just so nervous that he would get through the show. But apparently he was great. He got great reviews. Couldn't have asked for anything better. So show ended. The party was planned. We rented a little place right outside of the Liberty Tubes, a little divey place because we didn't want anybody to be there. And the cake was there. My wife was there. Some of the agents, some of the band members came, some of the Clapton's members, but no Eric Clapton. So the party's going on. Everybody's having a good time. We're sitting in a chair. I'm sitting right near the cake. In fact, somehow I found the picture of Clapton's agent and the band's agent and myself sitting near the cake, and you can actually see a corner of the cake in the book. Exactly. And all of a sudden, the party's winding down. Some people already starting to leave. The door, boom! Busts open. Next thing I see, it's Clapton. He's there. He's walking in. He's looking. I walk up. I say, "Hey, Eric, happy birthday again." I said, "Glad you're here." He goes, "Where's me blanking cake?" And I go, "Oh, your cake? Sure, right over here." So he walks over and he looks at the cake, shakes his head, reaches down, picks up the cake like this. He goes, looking at it, turns around, starts walking out the door. Right before he gets to the door, he turns around and goes, "Toodaloo." And the door slams and he's gone. He took the cake. I tell everybody, party's over. Everybody's done. The cake's gone.
Oh my gosh.
I guess some people were waiting around for cake too.
I think he likes cake, Eric. Now, that's a new thing to think about when you see him now. But so how about stage fright? I mean, I know that, I know some young artists and they suffer from that. So I'm guessing that you ran into a little bit of that. Why don't you tell a story or two about that?
More than a little bit of that.
Oh, really?
A lot of that. Yes. Very, very great artist, Carly Simon. Loved all of her songs and terrific talent. 2 nights at the Stanley Theater. First of all, it was one show. No, not 2 nights. Take that back. 2 shows in one night. And so we sold out the 7 o'clock show, boom, like that. So called the agent, "Hey, can we add another one?" "Sure, add another one. We'll go with a 10:30 show." Good, great. So the Stanley held 3,500 people. So show day comes, 3,500 people in there. First act plays, everything's good. Pete Hewlett, an act that I used to manage, Pete was Peter and the Pipers, and then he went on to be the background singer for Billy Joel. Now is the background singer at this time for Carly Simon. Pete and I were conversing before her show, and he goes, "Hey, Rich, there's a chance she might not even play tonight." He said that she's having some problems playing in front of these different audiences. And I go, "Really?" I said, I can't. Yeah, it's some kind of fear or something. I said, "Well, hopefully you guys can get through it." So he goes back. Show starts. Show was decent. All of a sudden, next thing we know, she's starting to have the lights dimming down on stage, and now she's inviting people on stage. She has about 20, 30 people in front of her sitting around, almost like a campfire party or a concert. And some people were coming and they said, we can't hear her. And some of them from the back, 3,500 seats back up on top, they said, we can hardly see her. Somebody dimmed the lights down. I said, well, that's what she wants. She wants this atmosphere and all a nice feeling, and wants that fuzzy kind of feeling. So she gets through the first show. And so all 3,500 people have to get up and leave. We have to wait till the last person leaves, and then we can open the door. Now, there's 3,500 more people all the way down Penn Avenue, as far as you can see, probably to the convention center at this point, waiting to come in. One big, long line. So, sure enough, Pete comes back. He goes, I think you have some problems. I don't think she's going to play. I said, well, next thing I know, Lucy Simons, Carly's sister, was the road manager and tour manager at the time. So Lucy comes to me. She goes, Rich, she goes, Carly can't play the next show. I said, please. I said, it's 65 minutes. She surely can get through to 65 minutes. I got 3,500 people. What are we going to do with all these people? She goes, she's not going to play. I said, can I talk to her? She said, of course, if you want to, do your best. I said, all right, I'm running. So I bolt back to the dressing room. I get back there. I knock on the door. Come in. I got a real soft voice. I go in. And I said, Carly, we didn't meet earlier. My name's Rich Engler. Welcome to Pittsburgh, and blah, blah, blah. I said, I know they say you're having some problems. And I said, can you please try to get through the next show? And she goes, no, I just can't. She said, I barely made it through that one. I'm not feeling well, and I just don't feel right in front of the audiences, and please. And I said, please play. And all of a sudden she goes, breaks out into a screaming, crying, I don't know, I don't know, not quite a fit, but whatever. And at that point I knew it's over. I said, all right, relax, sit down. I understand. You don't have to play. So I leave, sorry, and bolt out, and I tell them the security, I said, fortunately it wasn't a Motley Crue or an Ozzy Osbourne show. So I tell my people, go out, tell the people, unfortunately, Carly's not feeling well tonight. There'll be no second show. Hang on to your tickets. We'll let you know if it's going to be rescheduled or there will be refunds will be made. So it ended up, I called the agent the next day, tell him the story, and he said, well, I'll go back and check with Carly's people and find out what she wants to do, and there was no more. It was years before. Now I think she does play a little bit again for certain audiences. I know she can play in studio, like for studio audiences where there's a few people, but I think she's coming around that maybe she can play again, and hopefully I'd love to do the show again.
Yeah, what a great voice.
Yeah, so she made good. I paid all the expenses for the second show, and they were very stand-up people and great talent.
Speaking of security, obviously that's important, and you speak to Motley Crue or some of those crowds. Any interesting security stories that you can think of?
Well, one that really sticks out in my mind, again, this is one of my favorites in the book, that it was a double whammy. We had George Carlin at the Icy Light Amphitheater, sold out, completely sold out, and Ozzy Osbourne at the York Fairgrounds in York, PA. And I figured I better tend to Ozzy. Not that he was that wild back. Well, he was a little bit wild, but the shows were always consistent. Sharon was the manager, and very easy to get along with, great person. And so I get to Allentown, and show was for 7 o'clock, and I get there about 6 o'clock, and everything's fine. I talked to Ozzy for a couple minutes. He's in good spirits. Everybody's good. Opening act was ready. Everything fine. And the road manager from Ozzy comes to me and he goes, Rich, when's your security going to be in place? We're going to open the doors real soon. And I go, well, you mean they're not there? So I look and I go, I don't know. Let me check on it. So I go to see my production manager from Pittsburgh, and he was out there doing everything. And I said, hey, help me out here. Where's the security? I said, they should be in place by now. And he turns pure white and wants to pass out. And I go, well, wait, talk to me. Tell me what's the deal. He goes, I forgot to book the security. So
this is an Aussie crowd.
Aussie crowd. So in my mind, it's not a problem. I just need a solution fast. So I'm thinking, So I go back to the road manager and I tell him their bus broke down, but they will be here before showtime, before the doors open. So that bought me like 10 minutes of brain power. So I'm thinking. So I go, I think this might work. So there's always a bunch of freeloaders, drifters, or whatever that doesn't have tickets waiting outside of the building.
The freeloaders.
Trying to sneak in, break in, or if somebody give them a ticket or whatever. So I see several of them over there, and I go, who doesn't have tickets and who wants to see the show? All these hands shoot up. I go, okay, follow me. I need 20. The first 20 over here. 1, 2, 3. They count on it. So I go over there about 50 feet away, because I didn't want anybody to hear what was going to go on. So I get them away from the front of the box office. Okay, you other people have to go back over by the box office. So I take them over there, stand over by the building. I said, okay, here's the deal. We need you to be security guards tonight. I said, I'm going to swear you in as security guards. And raise your right hand. They all raise their right hand and say, repeat after me. I promise never to say anything, that I was just put on tonight to be the security guards for Ozzy Osbourne. If I'm asked, I will say that I was here and ready to go and ready to perform my duty. And
You
then
gave him the oath.
I gave him the oath, and then I said, okay, here's the deal. Everybody that has writing on your shirt, turn it inside out. I'm going to give you backstage passes and put them right here. It'll say security on them, and I wrote security on them. They all put them on, and I said, okay, I'm going to march you in and put you in your places. And remember, you're really security. So it's Ozzy, you're protecting Ozzy, you're protecting the crowd, and I'm going to tell each one of you what your job is as I put you in place. So I march them in like
all guys.
The roots. No, there were women too.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I was. Hey, they were good too, because some places like around the mixing console, you didn't really need much security. Just people to say, yeah, move back and whatever.
Yeah.
So there were never any. The biggest guys were right in front of the stage by the pit, where always some knucklehead wants to crawl on the stage.
Yeah.
So I march them in like peeps following me in there. So I get them all in their places, all ready to go. We open the door. Production manager comes out. He goes, "That's all I needed to see." The thumbs up. I go, "Yeah, baby." So we're all set. Show played. The next thing I get is a phone call from Pittsburgh. George Carlin, man, he goes, "Rich, now there's a lot of bad language in this thing, but I'm not gonna use it on this TV show." But he goes, "Why are you not here? You
bleepity bleep.
Bleep, 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 bleep.
George Carlin saying
manager.
Oh, it's manager.
Manager.
Okay.
Yeah. You mean? Oh, what you're saying is Ozzy's way more important than George Carlin, huh? I said, no, Jerry, no, not the case. He goes, and what? The show is sold out, right, here in Pittsburgh? I said, yeah. He goes, well, why is your guy selling carnival tickets out front for extra tickets? I said, Jerry, it's a long story. They were obstructed view tickets, and you're going to still get your percentage from all these tickets. We just don't have any more tickets. Rather than let those people loiter out there, we'll sell extra people because we can get them in there, but we have no other tickets. We'll show you the first ticket. And he goes, I don't like any of it. You pay me $3,000 extra right now, or we're not going on stage. I said, okay. And he goes, blah, 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 you dirty, blah, 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 blah. Well, that's his way of saying he loved me. Oh, because we've been friends for years.
Absolutely.
So he goes, all right, I'm going to put George on, you dirty, da 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 da. Hangs up. So George did play, and the evening was a success, and I was glad that the next day came and find us something new.
I think any thinking man would tend to Ozzy, though. I think anyone that's using their brains would tend to Ozzy over George Carlin.
Well, that you're exactly right. Plus, Ozzy's show was about 10 or 12,000 people, where the George Carlin show was a pretty calm audience. They were going to laugh at jokes and probably drink a few beers or whatever, but nothing. We're not going to have any problem.
Did you ever sneak into concerts when you were a kid?
I had a better idea. What I did was I didn't like sneaking in, but and you're the first person to ever ask this question, by the way. That's a great question. I had a unique plan whenever I wanted to go see a show. Remember, I was a drummer. So, and what do drums come in most of the time? Drum cases.
Yes.
Okay. So what I would do, that wasn't only the drum case, that was my seat. So I would go to the backstage door of any concert that I would want to go to and knock on the door, and I said, I'm here. And they go, well, who are you? I said, it doesn't matter who I am, it's what I have. Look, and I'd open it up and I'd bring out these drums and I'd put them back in the case and I'd say, the show can't go on, they're waiting for these drums. And they go, really? They go, yeah. I go, make any call I have the drums. They go, all right, if you have to, just go right backstage right now, okay? I said, okay, I will. So rather than go backstage, I'd go over by the mixer and by the mixing console, and I'd tell the guy, hey, I have these drums in case they need them. And he's like, all right. I said, well, I'm just going to sit on the case here in case if they need the drums, you let me know, okay? None of that would have ever happened. So I sit there the whole night, and any security guy, I said, hey, I have the drums for the show, and that was it. Well, I had the best seat in the house.
So how many times did you do that, and what were some of the concerts you can remember doing that at?
Boy, I can't remember the shows, but I probably did it 6 or 7 times.
6 or 7 times.
Yeah.
Well, I can remember some shows. When I grew up in Penn Hills, and the Holiday House was in Monroeville.
Oh, yeah.
And they had some great acts there.
Oh.
Did you ever work with that?
I did not, but it was great. My band played there a couple times.
Grains of Sand?
Yes, yeah,
Did you?
a couple times.
Did you?
Yeah, we opened for a couple bands out there.
Well, I was at Penn Hills High School, and we used to have parties in the Holiday House rooms. We would rent a room and have a party for a bunch of Penn Hills High School students. Well, I would meander down into the lobby area, and I would see that all these people were going into this performance hall, and I didn't know what was going on. Well, the lady at the front door, she would get up and just leave every once in a while, and I'd sit there and think, oh my gosh, I mean, you could walk right in there. So my father was a Pittsburgh policeman, so I was a law-abiding young boy. I didn't get in trouble, but the more I saw, she left again and came back, and I thought, if she does this one more time, I'm walking right in there. She walks out, I walk in, here comes the group, and it's Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness. Woo. So I told my friends about this. 2 weeks later, we go up there, I say, let's do it again. Nobody joined me. I walk in, the same thing happened, walked in, blood, sweat, and tears. And some great shows. And finally, I got my friends to come a couple weeks later, and I got 6 of them to roll in with me, and we saw The Temptations.
Sweet.
So that was just my sneak in. But funny that it's funny that I just wanted to mention this, though, because I went to see the Jersey Boys on Broadway, and it brought me back to that time when I saw Frankie Valli. But I want to talk about your book. I want to talk about how you can get your book, and where can you order your book.
Well, here it is. It's 8.5 by 11. I didn't want a normal paperback book with a couple cheesy pictures. Has 300 plus photographs in there, in the book. And
it's a great book. Rich.
Thank you very much. It has great Springsteen stories and Clapton and this Aerosmith. Some of these photographs are huge, and like if you're a Aerosmith fan, you can actually cut that out, and it's suitable for framing. And Dave Matthews, and there's Kiss stuff. 80 chapters, which I call tracks because I kind of like made it like a record or a CD. And it's for sale at select national record marts. That's the old. That's the old time coming out.
National Record Mart anymore.
No, right. Select Giant Eagle.
That's okay.
Stores.
I understand. I remember the National Record Mart.
I've done that before. I made that mistake before.
Giant Eagle.
So Select Giant Eagle, Select Crazy Mocha coffee shops, and Pittsburgh Guitars on the south side. And if you get frustrated and can't find it and it's sold out in any of those spots, at www.richengler.com. The orders will be filled. They'll go out the next day, and most of the time you can get it in 2 days. So that's it, and forget about National Record Mart. Giant Eagle stores. Select Giant Eagle stores.
But you also have a website.
I do. It's also www.richengler.com. A lot of other pictures that you can't even see in the book because I didn't want it to be redundant from the website to the book. So some things that you can see on the website you can't see in the book, and vice versa.
Can anybody get a signed copy?
Yes, on the website. If every order that comes through on the website, I sign. Or if they make it out to Joe or Mary or whatever, I will.
That's great.
And I'll put a keep on rocking, or long live rock and roll, or rock and roll never sleeps.
You know, Rich. It just dawns on me that like many kids grew up and go into a concert, because there were a lot of kids back in the day that didn't have a lot of money, and this is why we were sneaking into things. And so when you got to go to a concert, it was a really big deal. It was a really big deal. So now you're putting these concerts on. Can you recall any time where the impact that it had on somebody that was maybe a notable type person that came to one of your concerts and ended up telling you about it?
Oh, yeah, many, and many employees, which I need to tell you about. Well, for me, sneaking in was I had a motive. I didn't only want to watch the show, I wanted to learn. I didn't want to be on that seat. I wanted to be on that seat and on that drum riser on that stage. That was my goal. but many employees, interns over the years have gone on to greatness. Joel Pearsman from Mount Lebanon area out here in the South Hills. Joel came to me and said, hey, I'd like to intern with you and be your intern and do whatever. And I had him, he was a guard, guarded James Taylor's dressing room one time, and he moved up, and I could see he was a go-getter. He said, Rich, I want to go to New York. Will you get me a job in New York? And I said, yeah, I can get you in the mailroom at one of the big agencies, William Morris or CAA or whatever. And I got him up there, and he hit the ground running up there, and the next thing I know, he's calling me. He gets a great job and a great opportunity. He's selling me Genesis as an agent, and he went on to be the general manager at Madison Square Garden for many years, which is like the ultimate, you would think, but he did one better than that. He went on, and he's the president and CEO of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in New York City.
Goodness gracious, and he was an intern for you.
Yes, that's where he started.
Wow.
And he wrote one of the forwards in the book, which it's kind of heartfelt. It's great.
Well, there's also a pretty big rock star that went to one of your concerts.
The first concert, yes, Bon Jovi. Bon Jovi ended up being, over the years of playing his shows and becoming friends with Cindy and I, we were fortunate enough to be invited to his wedding reception with Dorothea and John in New York City on a pier, and had great fun. And after one of the shows, I think at Mellon Arena, many years later, he goes, Rich, I need to tell you this story. He goes, my grandmother used to live in Erie, Pennsylvania, and on my summer vacation, I was up there 12, 13 years old. Your concert of the Doobie Brothers, Rush and Hart, was the first concert I ever attended in my life. And he said, I was so indoctrinated and so in love with what I was seeing and being a part of that audience, I knew that I didn't want to be there, I wanted to be up there. And he said, thanks for that inspiration.
That's an unbelievable story.
Yeah.
That must have really hit you a little bit,
Oh,
because
man.
it really
Yeah.
does makes impacts. These
Yeah.
concerts can make impacts on people.
Exactly. And now that the book is out, people were coming out of the woodwork and telling me, hey, I used to work for you. Man, Bill Allen, he owns radio stations and newspapers and in Alaska and all these different places. He said, hey, I owe it all to you. You were my inspiration.
Well, we're almost done. Talk about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Pittsburgh. You're the first inductee, right?
Yes, indeed. I was in shock. They called me and said, Rich, you're going to be the first inductee in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame for Pittsburgh, and well deserving. And I said, oh man, I cried. It was humbling, and in the same breath, it's beyond fantastic. It's going to take place on January 23rd at the Hard Rock Cafe. And the greatest part of the whole thing, all of the profits, every single cent goes to the Cancer Caring Center right in our area here. And you go to the Cancer Caring website, come on down, be a part of it, watch the induction, and watch me probably cry and not be able to get through the speech.
Wow, what a great honor. And you know, Rich, this hour just flew by. I had so much fun. I hope you had as much fun as I had.
I really did.
It was such a great time spending time with you. And truthfully, I have so much more to ask you. Maybe we can do it again sometime.
Let's do it. We'll bring some new things, change the scenery, and
that works for me.
Make it work.
That works for me. So thanks again for being here.
And keep on rocking out there.
There you go. There you go. I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did. I really thank you for watching. Please join us for another edition of The Lee Adams Show. And I also ask you, please be an organ donor. Give the gift of life. Take care.